Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms chats. But this is sort of the special summer edition, and we're talking about enrichment resources, things that can help kids kind of build good habits and maybe remedy some of the effects that the pandemic had on us. And one thing that I've heard from parents and teachers is that if kids have been spending time on screens, that maybe they haven't been doing as much with their hands to get ready to do writing when they go to school. So this is not about teaching like 3-year-olds how to write or hold a long skinny pencil. This is about and it's not about drill or suffering. This is about like play that helps kids get those pre-writing skills. And so our expert to talk to us about pre-writing skills and fun is Jorge Ochoa, who is a school-based occupational therapist, and you might have gone to one of his events as Tambo Rhythms. He does these amazing drumming circles and does lots of like sensory-friendly events. So he's super active. We were talking about how he has like too many handles. He's all over the place. But I'm really lucky that we have a guest post at sachartermoms.com, and he's talking with us about how to build pre-writing skills for young children. So thank you, George.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I wanted to ask kind of more broadly, folks may not be that familiar with what occupational therapy is about. So I was wondering, can you kind of explain, like, what's your purpose and your vision of your career as an occupational therapist?
Right. So basically, with occupational therapy, what we want to do is we want to use meaningful activities or incorporate activities that basically help others in living a functional life. That's kind of like the broad, kind of um, the broad goal of OT. We are looking at trying to help the person when it comes to doing those things in their life that are meaningful to them. We try to help them to engage in occupations. Now, occupations in the way that we use it, I know that we've always used it, when it comes to a job. What's your occupation? What do you do? Job. Well, with OT, it's when we talk about occupations, it's more about those things that people do in their lives that occupy their time. So it's basically what you do in your life, how you spend your time. Some of the occupations that we as OTs address, and it depends also on the setting that you're in. We help to address occupations of play, social participation, education, rest, and sleep. So it's all those different um, avenues in a person's life and what is important to them, and so we kind of help support that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I think it's important. I think sometimes, like, if a child is struggling or a parent is concerned, especially with a young child, they might not know like sort of which specialist to talk to, and that I think that's where we try like on the blog to talk about like what is the terminology. We've had posts about hearing loss and about vision therapy, and just all these different things. Because just because maybe a child's having trouble reading, there might be or writing, there might be lots of different possible root
For
causes,
sure.
and it's a
Hmm.
matter of
Yeah.
like talk to a variety of specialists and find the right solution. That's what's going to unlock like you said, we want every child and every adult to be able to spend their time doing things that are meaningful to them.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
So, so I've been a member for years of. You have a wonderful group on Facebook. Now, tell me, what's the name of the Facebook group that you run?
The occupational therapy and educational tips.
Okay, that
Yeah.
is an
That's
amazing
yeah.
group, because like you are constantly sharing resources, and that's like what the blog post has a lot of is these like great resources. But a theme that I noticed, like you have lots of ways of encouraging kids to play in ways that gets their hands stronger, and that's what prepares them for writing. And this like this idea was like kind of blew my mind. And then, but then what I've been hearing is that, because of the pandemic and kids being home so much, and maybe they, have been playing differently. They've been using electronics and not
Mhm.
picking up as many things with their hands. So then they come to school, and it's you're seeing like a different set of behaviors in that population than what you saw before the pandemic. So can you talk more about like why is it important that young children in that like age 1 to 5 that they develop those pre-writing skills?
Right. So I think you are right when it comes to like the iPads and the phones. I think they're a great resource. I think there's a time and place for them. But the thing about them is that many times I think that the children are spending way too much time on them, and they're not engaged in things that can help to develop their hand strength, their finger strength, being able to use both hands together to kind of like push and pull things and kind of take things apart, put them together, And I think that's very important for overall hand development, hand and finger development, which will translate as to how effective and how engaged they can be when it comes to the pre-writing skills. Now, when it comes to pre-writing skills, so those are the foundational skills, the foundational forms, whether it be shapes and lines that a child should be able to draw before they actually start writing and so forth. So those are what, like how you said, the child would be developing between the ages of 1 through 5, years of age. And when it comes to what the expectation would be for them, let's say even before they pick up a pencil or even before they start to write their name, you know we live in a time where I think that many um, many, it could be parents, educate, schools, and so forth. I think that sometimes it's very easy to kind of want to accelerate your child, and I get that. I have 3 of my own, so I get that. But we also have to meet the child at where they're at, and we have to kind of like also follow a developmental way of allowing them to grow and not making them or pushing them to grow too fast, because then that could actually have that can backfire on you, because you might end up having a child that doesn't want anything to do with the pencil, doesn't want to write, and so forth, because it can become a very frustrating task, especially if they start too early. So yes, so the pre-writing skills are the developmental shapes, the forms that children should learn how to draw prior to actually writing. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, I know, like the moms and dads who joined the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group. A lot of us are achievement oriented parents. We want our kids to succeed, and it's very tempting to like look at the milestones and just think, oh, what if my kid does these milestones early? Does that mean that they're a genius and they're going to be successful
right,
in life? And
right,
but
right.
that can be kind of a trap. That like there are successful adults who maybe were later on some of their milestones, like
Hmm.
crawling or reading, and it doesn't hold them back. It just means that some kids just develop at a different pace.
Right,
So um, and that's why, like, and you don't want to take the fun out of childhood, right? That they can learn through play, and like that's what I've learned through visiting programs like Pre-K for SA or like Joy Holistic Education, like these very like play-based early childhood programs, and they can be academically supportive of the students, but when you walk into the classroom you see a lot of play happening as well, and it doesn't have to
right.
be stressful, and it doesn't have to be like a power struggle between the adult and the child, of doing repetitive, kind of boring things.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Trying to get the child really, especially for a child, um, play is their occupation, you know, and that's how they grow. That's how they learn. That's how, and so encourage that as much as you can, especially outside. That's the other thing. I think we've lost a lot of that. When we were younger, we spent time outside. We climbed and we did our bikes, skateboards, you name it. We just had fun. And all of those skills were kind of also the precursors to even the pre-writing skills, because you
Right.
had to develop the muscles of your entire body, you know, in order to have the foundational core strength, the stability to be able to use your hands correctly,
Right. Who knew
So
that
yeah,
just splashing around the pool, you're actually crossing the midline, right?
very important. That's going to be a skill you're going to need, especially, not just writing, reading, how we get dressed, how we eat. All of that stuff does require, if you really, we don't think about it because most of us don't have a problem with that, but some children do. But you can see how much, if you really take a notice as to how many things we do that do require crossing the midline, even when we brush our teeth, because we cross our midline when we brush our teeth. So even that,
Yeah,
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 yeah. And yeah, and you mentioned like having the left and the right work together. Yeah, there's all these are things that I had no idea, and that I'm not an expert by any means, but I've sort of picked up along the way, like, reading things, or like going to, spaces that cater towards children with special needs, and realizing, like, wow, there's a lot more to this. But in some ways, it's reassuring, because what you realize is that these things that are so complex that adults do, that we take for granted, that you
Hmm.
really can break them down into smaller steps that
Hmm.
aren't so scary, right? Like you said,
Right.
like, so for writing, it's these shapes, right? Like a curve or a triangle or a line, and so you're not expecting a young child to write their name, but you're
Oh
just
no,
hoping that
right.
they're learning these shapes, right?
Right. Yeah, I would not even. Of course, I realize that some children they're quick learners and they can write their name. Some children can write their name at 3 or 4. And I mean, you know what? And that's awesome. If they're there and they're just going with it and they got it, then they got it. You run with that. But it's like, to the extent, like, for instance, um, a 4-year old. You know, the what I would expect out of a 4-year old when it comes to pre-writing is to be able to draw um, a cross in a square. If they could do that at 4, awesome. You know, So yeah, it's just knowing what you know where to start and where to take them. Like, for instance, when it comes to being able to draw, like the lines, like a vertical line would be at more around. Of course, I'm giving you like the average age. Of course, some children get it before and some children get it later. And when it comes to, like, the vertical line would be first, horizontal line second, circle is next, and then cross is next, and then square is next, and then triangle is next. Once they can copy a triangle, and we'll talk more about the differences of that, and how to get to that point, is that once they can draw a triangle, then they have the foundational shapes down to be able to um, start writing their name. And just to let you know, on the average, um, being able to copy a triangle occurs around 5 years, 3 months on the average. But do
That
not get caught up. Do not get caught up on developmental checklist. Yeah, that's the
yeah.
average. That's just to give you a guide. Don't, if your child is at 5.3 and they can't do a triangle, don't go, oh no, that's fine. They might get the triangle between 5 and 6. The way I see it is that, sometime in K, in kinder, you know, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Wait, so you mentioned about like copying is like the more advanced version, and then the kind of the stepping stone to that is imitating, right? So like an adult could model, drawing that vertical line, and then that's right. So can you talk more about?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes. So, and that's very important to know the difference to imitate something as compared, like, to copy something. So to imitate something, you are showing, you are drawing it, and the child is seeing you draw that shape or line. So they see the cueing, they know exactly how you're doing it and what you're doing. That's imitation. That is developmentally easier and comes before copying. Now, to copy, what you would do is that you would show the child a completed shape without any instruction. In other words, you just show them the picture of a circle. The circle is completed. You're not showing them how to draw the circle. You're just presenting the circle, and then they draw it. That's copying. Now, once a child can copy all those forms that I talked about, from the line to the triangle, then they are ready to start, more or less, to start to learn how to write. Again, some children can start writing before that, some children after that. This is just a guide. Yeah, kind of like to help you. But to know the difference between imitation and copying is important, because then you know what the expectation is. And if a child cannot copy, well, then that's fine. Even for their age, let's say, for a 3-year old should be able to copy a circle. Well, let's say they're 3 and they can't. Well, you know what? Okay, that's fine. Then let's come back down and maybe try the imitation of a circle. Work on that for a while. Set your child up for success, because once they're set up for success, and the child feels better about themselves, and then that way it builds their self-esteem. And that's what we want as well. So yeah, so if they can't copy, then you go back a little bit, work on the imitation, and so forth, and then we can move up. Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. I want to sort of generalize on that, as in terms of like parenting advice, because I feel like so. I mean, my kids are 12 and 14, and they've, I won't say they have great handwriting, but they've gotten there. It wasn't always easy, but in general, like we there's sort of a different set of issues, we're dealing with, which is like I want my kids to grow in independence, and I feel like the sort of types of free range parenting that I wanted to do kind of got put on hold during the pandemic, and so we're in this place of like this summer we're wanting, I want them to, go themselves down to the convenience store and buy something, without me, necessarily showing them how to do
Exactly.
right. And but like the first two times I'll walk with them and I'll show them like, oh yeah, here's how you, make change with the cashier or whatever, kind of
Hmm.
model it, and then I'm
Right.
going to turn them loose to do it.
Hmm.
And so I think, and also too, I think that as parents, like, and looking at ourselves, looking at our kids, we need to give ourselves some grace that our lives got disrupted a lot, and so if you're feeling like, oh, I thought by age 15 my kid would be able to do this, it's like, well, you know what, the opportunities to model that weren't there, so we're just got a little catch up to do, and then we'll go on. But
Right, and you're not alone. That's a lot of kids, most of our kids. So it's not like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, my child is here. No, this is a world. This is all over. This um, kids that maybe they did not reach the milestones or whatever you hope they would reach during this time. This is a global issue. So that might be able to kind of like calm nerves a little bit. Because all kids
yeah,
need to kind of catch up. You know,
yeah.
yeah,
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 exactly. So it's like be aware of the milestones, but don't freak out about it.
right.
Don't feel like if just because your kid isn't meeting those that everything's going all wrong. No, just be aware of it. And then find these ways to like, okay, so maybe they're not ready to draw a circle. Let's model the circle. They can imitate, and then when they get
Mm,
confident about that, then they're ready to copy, right? To kind of reverse engineer, whatever you show them, and then take it from there, right?
right, right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you've shared in the group and in the blog post, like, materials, and this I get really excited about this. It's like I'm ready to, like, play
Mm,
with all the toys. Yeah. But what are some of the good materials? I know we don't have time to cover all the different examples, but like,
right, 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 right.
but
Yeah.
but I want folks to remember, like, this is play. Like, yes, they're building their pre-writing skills, but it's supposed to be fun too because they get to play with fun materials.
Right. So um, even before you put a writing utensil of any type, whether it be a crayon or pencil in their hand, there's a lot of things that you can do, hands on. Just like for instance, one of the things I believe I put in there was uh, wiki sticks is what they're called, and hey, and they're basically yarn covered with wax, and you can bend them, and you can put them on paper, and you can build, and you can make lines with them, you can make shapes with them, and that's an excellent tactile, that's a great way to teach them how to form these shapes, because you can put it down on the sheet, and then you can finger trace it as well, which kind of like enhances you know the memory of that, so and I really like those wiki sticks, and you can just put WIKKISTIX and in Amazon or anywhere on the internet, and they should come up because they're very well known. Um, Even doing things like um, having shaving cream, make bath time fun. You know, you can also get like a cookie sheet or foil, and put the shaving cream on that. It's excellent because again, you're getting that whole tactile, multi-sensory avenue involved, which is to me I think is the best way to teach because then as many senses that you can get involved, the better. You can do that. You can do finger painting. You know, you can do finger painting. Um, you could use popsicle sticks as well. That really is more of a no mess kind of deal with a popsicle stick. Just have fun with the sticks. Make the triangle with the stick. Make a cross, make a square. Good luck in trying to make a circle with the popsicle sticks. It's not gonna work. But unless you break them up all over and then you make the circle
You
with
have to like soak it in water overnight. This is a challenge.
I
I'm gonna
don't
soak some
know.
in
Yeah,
water and then see.
break break them or something. Break them into
Yeah, yeah.
pieces and make them into. I would Also, a bin. Get a bin with dried rice, and then have them use their index finger to isolate their index finger, um, to draw the shapes in them. So you can make pre-writing so much fun without even introducing a writing implement. Meaning something to hold on onto. Also,
Right.
something
Like,
else to use, is also, which you wouldn't think is a pre-writing skill, because you're thinking about actually making the shapes, but you also try threading and beading also, because that's going
mm,
to be important when it comes to the pincer grasp of using the index finger and the thumb, which you want to develop that skill, because it helps to kind of like separate the hands, which will prepare them to be able to use the crayon, chalk, or and pencil at a later time. So those are things you can, but everything is done within the context of play, having fun.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's
And that
that's
would,
even right, right.
oh, I think one of the tools you mentioned, it was maybe like little tongs, like little plastic tongs, and then you can pick up
That too.
things like,
Yeah,
yeah, like soft things or hard things, right? Like cotton balls or like puff balls.
yeah,
Are
and
those,
that tongs are good too, because again, it can help you, especially with the smaller ones. It can help you when it comes to the tripod grasp. Okay, and also when you use tongs, and you can also put something in the palm of your hand, and you hold it against the palm of your hand. That also helps to separate the hand. See, that's the thing, because you don't want, as children get older, you don't want them doing this. Now, for a
right.
1 year old, this is acceptable. For one, just kind of let you know, for a 1 year old, this is acceptable. For a 2 to 3 year old, this is acceptable. Okay, but as they get older, more, then you're going to start seeing them use 4 fingers, 3 fingers, and that's fine. But again, it's just trying to set them up for success, and to give them the opportunity to kind of like, again, making things fun without even introducing a pencil. You haven't even used a pencil yet, which I would say, um, probably bring those in and like at age 5, and I would use the short pencils, the golf pencils, at age 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, Something to consider too is that most children stop mouthing items at the age of 2. So if they're below 2 years of age, really watch your child because of the mouthing
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these things have small parts. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want
Yes, they have small
the
parts.
cotton balls
Exactly.
or broken
Right.
crayons. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I would say, um, yeah, play with and along your child. Play along with them, because I remember, like, one time I had a student, and what she was supposed to do was to color like a shape within the boundary. Okay, but it seemed to me that she had a difficult time trying to complete that task, and it made so much of a difference when I sat next to her and I colored with her. She saw what I was doing. She knew exactly what's supposed to be expected, and then she went ahead and she did it with me. We both had a good time, because we were both engaged in the activity.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm.
so whatever you're asking the child to do, then you do it along with them. You maybe you have him in front of you, um, um, on the
I do that.
floor,
I
you
do that
know.
with even with my 12-year-old, like, if we're doing coloring, like, for relaxation, then we'll sit
Yeah,
next to each other and share the big bin of colored pencils, so
yeah,
yeah, because
yeah.
even for an adult, it's relaxing.
Yeah. I mean, they have those books now for us too, that we can color. Yeah. Also, doing things on their stomach on the floor is a great way, because it helps to develop their trunk, their shoulders, which they're both need strong shoulders, and trunk are needed for a good stable base of support. So I would encourage you to do things on the floor with them on their stomach. However, with propped up on their elbows, and do not let them rest their head on the ground or on their arm. Make sure they keep their head up, propped up on their elbows, doing things with their head, because then that will help to develop that trunk and also the shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you talked about like, some of these things are pretty tidy, like popsicle sticks. Some of them are more messy, like the finger paint or the shaving cream, so you could either do it in the bath or go outside, right? Because that's
Exactly.
something that maybe we haven't done enough of,
Right.
over the
Oh,
last
for
couple of
sure.
years. And
Yeah.
now it's
Right.
like, okay, it's summer. I know it's hot, but let's get outside. And you just hose off to cool
Make
down
some
or,
time to go outside. Exactly. 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 Um, yeah. So that's where I would say to just encourage the use of so many different ways of playing with
yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's helpful, you've talked about milestones, you talked about like, like don't introduce things like pencils until maybe they're like 5, and even then just get like the short like golf pencils, so it's more manageable. And then that leads into something we touched on a little bit, but like, what advice do you have for parents who are, you know, worried about milestones or feeling anxious about their kid being behind, or it's just how do we like remember that childhood should be about play.
Right. Right. So going back to number one, be careful about comparing your children to others, because I know many times parents can get into, well, my child can do this, my child can do that, and you're like, well, my can't, and that's okay. I think especially at this time, I think going back to what we already touched on is knowing that we are just coming back to some normalcy with this pandemic now. So for so long, it's not just your child that has been impacted. I mean, I work in a school setting, and a lot of children have they're just not where they were supposed to be because we're out of school. So that's the best thing to do really, is to take a deep breath and just know it's going to be okay. And children, the best thing about children is that children learn so fast, and their brains are so plastic, in the sense that they're malleable, and they're soaking up information like you would not believe. So it's kind of like, make it fun for your child. That's the most important thing. you know and you'll be surprised on where they go with that. And going back to what you also what we both talked about already, is the thing about um, it's okay, don't rush towards the pencils. I would say, when before age 5, use small pieces of chalk and small pieces of crayons, because those will help to develop, number one, a more functional grasp pattern. Okay, number one, and number two, those are excellent ways to actually help when it comes to strengthening the fingers, because crayons and chalk are more resistive when you compare them to pencils
Right.
or markers. That's a whole other tangent I could go on when it comes to dry erase boards. I
Mm,
understand that dry erase boards are kind of like they're the in thing now, or they've been the in thing for a while, as compared to the chalkboards. But when you think about it, the chalkboard was actually a better way, because a chalkboard, it really gave you a more multi-sensory um, feeling and way of doing things on that board, because it's sensory input to the fingers, whereas markers don't do that, because as you can tell, you can barely touch the board and then you make a mark, so it doesn't take that much strength and endurance. Whereas with a chalk, it takes more that you have to invest in the
yeah,
pressure of
yeah.
getting it. So that's why I would even say, go to like a hobby lobby and get small chalkboards
Mhm,
as
mhm.
well, and
Yeah.
small pieces of chalk. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, because you can really there's a bite when that chalk hits the chalkboard, and whereas a dry erase marker just glides on that board. It's a
and
completely different
and then
feeling.
right, and then you have kids that have weak hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need like the chalk and the chalkboard, it's like the kettlebell version of of handwriting, right?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. This I feel like this is just a like occupational therapy is so interesting, and it's such a rich subject, and I hope that this is getting parents like curious about this. Like, wow, I didn't know that there's this, this whole aspect of learning of, having, so kids can be functional in school and,
Mhm.
accomplish all these things, like, and it's not just their fingers, it's like their shoulders, their trunk, all these things they can do. So, I know you've been working in schools for a number of years as an occupational therapist. Can you share some examples or stories about like how you've seen like, a child like developing these skills and what it can unlock for them?
Well, I'll be honest with you now. Okay, so I would have to say that. Um, so let me give you a little background story when it comes to where I've seen my most of my success. I feel, even though the foundation started within the schools, I think most of my success has been outside of what's happening outside the schools. Okay, um, so years ago, I was at a point where I was very frustrated because teachers, due to no fault of their own, because I know how the system can be sometimes. Um, I was getting frustrated because they just did not have time to teach handwriting, you know, and that's one of the things that we OTs deal with in the school. We get a lot of referrals for handwriting, and I was just frustrated because I was like, OTs or not. An OT didn't teach me how to write. An OT didn't teach you how to write. But it seems to me like these referrals were just getting, like crazy, handwriting referrals. Um, so basically, what I did is one spring break, I took it upon myself. I went on the computer and I drew using Word. I drew handwriting paper. What I did. Okay. And I was like, because it's just like, I don't know how to help these teachers. I mean, this is just what I'm doing. So I basically, if they can't implement handwriting instruction, maybe if I make special paper that they can use, that might help the whole thing, So I'm saying all that because out of that, I was able to develop specialized handwriting paper, le- Legi Guide, which are legibility guides. I developed that, and it took off, and then it started selling around the United States. And basically, that's where I feel when it comes to the whole deal, when it comes to going beyond the pre-writing, going into the actual writing. I feel like that's probably where, as an OT, within that context of an OT, I think that's probably where I've had the most impact because other therapists have contacted me and they're using the paper where they work. Um, because I developed the paper and because it's on sale, I don't use it where I work because of a conflict of interest. So that's why, so I don't use my paper at my job. Other people use it. But that would have to be like when it comes to that particular field, that particular aspect of my job, that's really where I feel like I've had the most success, which came out of frustration. Yeah, and that was back in like 2005, 2006.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
invention comes from, trying to find a better way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I would say, and of course I would have to say that when it comes to that aspect of OT, and also, and I know we haven't really talked about it um, that much, but also with the group drumming that I do. I think that's probably overall. I think that's where I probably made the more impact as an OT.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
remember, that, gosh, I think, yeah, pre-pandemic, I got to go to one of your drumming circle events. It was part of the library summer reading program. And I
Hmm.
think it was a library on the west side and, big circle. And, what's great is that how you include people of, maybe somebody who's like hardly ever hit a drum before in their life, and then they come in and they're able to participate. And it's very inclusive. So there could be, children and adults with special needs, and they're able to participate and
Hmm.
feel included, and and it has such like when the whole room is drumming, like you can't resist feeling it, inside and out. Like it's
Hmm.
coming in through your ears, you're feeling it through the soles of your feet or through your bottom sitting on the floor, and it's just irresistible.
Yeah, I mean, drumming has been. I mean, it's been. I never knew I was gonna get into it. Well, it just occurred the way it has, and it's been great. And just being able to get people of all ages, kids, whether they have with or without a special need, and their parents and families and everything. It's just been great to be able to see them to come together and to connect, and even trying to and you can even use drumming as a way to even help your pre-writing skills. Okay, believe it or not. So, like for instance, one of the things that can be done is that you can if you have like a synthetic drum, um, one that's not made out of like an actual skin of like a goat or a cow or anything, um, you could draw shapes on there, which is what I've done, and I've learned this through another resource. So it wasn't my idea, where you can like draw a square on the drum, and then you can play with the child. Say, okay, how many sides does a square have? And then you can play it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. How many? Draw a triangle. How many sides does a triangle have? 1, 2, 3. How many sides does a circle have? And then, of course, they don't have any sides. So, okay, we don't play on a circle. So you can incorporate pre-writing skills even with the drum. And playing the drum is actually very good also, because in doing that, you're getting hand strength, you're getting endurance, and also you're getting the shoulders involved. You have to work on being able to sit up, your posture, and so forth. And so all of that are skills that you're going to need to implement pre-writing and writing. So you see, so you can even use that as a kind of like as a foundational help with regards
Yeah.
to that. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, again, it's like it's learning, but it's fun. That's how it should be in the summer.
that's
That's
the
how it
key.
should be year round. Yeah.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
make it fun, and families doing stuff with their kids because, yeah, like we've all been working hard, but sometimes it's good to set the work aside and spend time with our kids, building up these skills for them, so they feel love through. It's not like they feel criticized or like we're trying to improve them or something. It's like, no, we're doing this activity together, and we can.
it's a way of self-expression with the drumming. Okay, but there's so many skills that are involved beyond the drumming. So many, like as a therapist, I'm taking a look at the social skills. I'm taking a look at attention span,
Mhm.
self-control, following directions, taking turns. All of those skills are needed, not just for school but for life. So those
Yeah,
are really life skills that will translate, that will move with you into adulthood. So, and that's what these kids are learning, all within the context of play. So they don't have to learn about all this other stuff that we're learning. All they have to worry about is or even think about it, I'm having fun, play, you know. So so yeah, so that it's just been quite a journey, and I'm glad that it came my way. So yeah,
well, I'm
it
glad
is.
too because like you brought a lot of joy to a lot of groups and a lot of kids and
Thank
families
you.
through the
Thank you.
Rhythms.
I've been
Yeah,
blessed. I've been blessed. And
yeah.
then that also gives me a reason to dress funny also. So yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
hats are my thing, drums are your thing. It's awesome. Yeah.
I wear these shirts, a different one of these shirts every day to work out. So yeah,
That's
yeah,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, George, I want to make sure that people know how to reach you because I mean, we've got, in the description of the video, it'll take people to the blog post that's got links,
Mhm.
but I want to, put some stuff up on the screen. So, how about should we start with the website? What can folks find if they visit tamborhythms.com?
Yeah. So go to, and it can be hard to spell out. So it's TAMBORHYTHMS.com. So it's one word.com. And so if you go there, you will be able to know not just about my drumming. It's mostly about my drumming, but there is a page on there that talks about OT tips. And so that's where you can go, and you can contact me through there, and it also has some of the tips that I've developed, some of the tips I've learned from others, and that I've included on there. And then it should also have you should be able to also access the Facebook group through there, which is Occupational Therapy Educational Tips, as well as the on the at OT Tips and Beyond on IG as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, and then yeah, so there's OT tips and beyond on Instagram has
yeah.
yeah, like and then at Tambo Rhythms, which you spelled it TAMBORHYTHMS. So that's got information about the drumming. And then if folks want to reach you, they can reach you by email. And this is also on the website, right? So Tambo
Right.
Rhythm at yahoo.com.
That's correct. Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then yeah, so like through the website, that's how folks they can contact you by email. That's got information about the legend guide, like the handwriting
Yeah.
paper, right? So that's
Right.
um yeah,
Right.
and you offer consultations. So if there's so like after work hours, you can consult with families about, occupational therapy, how it might be
Right.
able to help their child.
Right, right. So for that, I know where my kind of like my lane is on that. So it is consult with parents, or it could be somebody that's a caregiver, educator, anybody, for children 3 through 17 years of age. And then, regarding issues that could be fine motor, self-care, sensory skills, and so forth. So that's another avenue. That's another. Those are three areas that if you need assistance with, we can have a conversation about if I'm a good fit for you, and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know even like in your Facebook group, you share tips about dressing. That was something that my son was kind of not motivated to learn, and I had to find some, life hacks to get him through it. But
We
there's,
always do, right?
yeah, yeah. But it's about independence. It's about, it's like someday they will grow up, they will leave the nest, and we want them to have lives full of choices and be able to do, whatever their dream is, wherever their mind leads them. They need, like, the skills, to make that happen in the world.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope this is inspiring parents thinking about what is the power of occupational therapy, what kinds of things it can unlock for kids, and that we may be feeling concerned about what our kids didn't do over the last couple of years, but like you said, George, we're kind of all in the same boat. Like all kids and all families, all educators are seeing this, and so it's just a matter of assessing where we are, giving ourselves grace, and then go have some fun, play, and that's how kids are going to learn and grow.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And the parents need to learn also be engaged in playing as well with their kids and also play for themselves.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's easy to forget that as we get older in life, we get too busy with life. We forget to play as well. So
yeah, put the phone down, pick up some shaving cream or
yeah, or whatever it
crayons,
is,
and
whatever
yeah,
whatever your play might be, whatever it is,
yep,
go, enjoy it.
yep. Grab your drum. Hey, can you carry us out with a few more beats on your drum?
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. Okay. This drum is actually my desk that I use with whenever I do my interviews, which is funny. So anyway, so this is a Chico drum. Chico is the name of it. So yeah. So one of the beats that I use a lot, and you'll also hear in a lot of drum circles, is something along the lines of this.
That's fantastic. Thank
Thank
you,
you. Yeah.
George. Thank you so
All right.
much. All right, take
Awesome. Well,
care.
thank you for having me. Thank you. Take
Yeah.
care.